Hello, I'm your presenter, Daniel Garcia, for this training course for MGT 616, Organizational Change and Development and Management, Dr. Barbara Leonard at California Intercontinental University. And this will be a presentation on CPOE management training at Springfield General Hospital. First, the agenda. We're going to identify the problem. Next, we will identify the solution to that problem. We're just going to discuss CPOE, what that is. We'll then talk about the management's team role in the change process. We'll discuss Lewin's change model and what implication that has. We'll talk about sequence implementation, and then we'll wrap up with any Q&A. So first, identifying the problem. So the problem is medication errors. Medication errors due to the following: similar sounding drug names, negative interactions of multiple medications, patient drug allergies that are not properly identified, and surprisingly, the most common medication error is due to illegible handwriting, mostly from physicians, but from other staff as well. So let's talk a little bit more about medication errors and why those are so significant. Medication errors annually in the United States kill or harm more than 770,000 patients. Now, these adverse drug events are responsible for several $100 billion annually. Okay, so what is the solution to this problem that we have identified, being medication errors? The solution is CPOE. CPOE is the computerized physician order entry system. Basically, it's a computer software, computer system that allows you to enter the information, the medications and information for the patient into a computer system rather than having to maintain a paper and pencil system. So the process of a medical professional entering medication orders or other physician instructions electronically instead of on paper charts. Now, this is useful for reducing medication errors and increasing safety and accuracy. All of the patient's prescriptions for medicine and treatment are entered. All hospital staff have access to CPOE, and patients' complete medical history is also loaded into the CPOE. Now, the system will catch all prescription errors, including the incorrect dosages, the duplication requests, possible allergic reactions, and of course, it eliminates the need for illegible handwriting. Now let's talk a bit about the teams that are involved. Of course, we know that staff will be trained on CPOE, but we're discussing here what the management's role is in the implementation of CPOE. Managers are, of course, critical to the success of the CPOE program, and your responsibilities are going to be training, mentoring, and coaching staff on the CPOE implementation. Remember also that it's important to focus on the unique needs of each department. So, IT obviously are going to be crucial to implementing the CPOE. Nursing staff are going to be using the CPOE extensively daily, but those two different departments have very different needs in this change process. So management's role will be to, identify and be able to focus on what those needs are. Also remember that it's important to build support for change with the staff while implementing it. Now, how are we going to do that? So we've identified the problem, medication errors. We've identified the solution to that being a CPOE system. We've talked about the manager's role in implementing that CPOE system. So now, how are we going to do this? How are we actually going to make the change? We're going to use what's called Lewin's change model. That's going to be the management's role in the change process. So Kurt Lewin was a German-American psychologist. He's considered the father of modern social psychology. And he created a change model called the organizational change model in 1947. So it's quite dated, but it's still considered one of the premier organizational change models. So there's 3 stages in Kurt Lewin's change model. First, it's unfreezing, then moving, and refreezing. So in the unfreezing stage, we want to examine the status quo. In the organization. And we want to increase the driving forces for change and decrease resistance to change. During the moving phase, this is where we take action and make changes. So this is where we would actually implement CPOE during this process, or during this stage. And then in the final stage of Lewin's change model, it's called refreezing. This is where the new changes that we've implemented, the CPOE, becomes permanent, and there is the creation of a new status quo. And it's important to understand that during the initial unfreezing stage, it's expected to be staff resistance to this change. And the management's role, one of the main roles will be, as I said, they're decreasing the resistance to that change. And then this allows the change to occur. And during the refreezing stage, this allows the creation of kind of a new status quo that becomes the new permanent process in place. Now let's talk a bit about sequenced implementation. So of course, it would be impractical to simply just roll out CPOE on day one, no training nor no evaluation of that process. So we will do what's called a sequenced implementation. We're going to start with a beta test. We're going to start with a pilot CPOE system that we will be testing, working alongside with our current system, and then implementing this pilot system for CPOE. We're going to do this to collect data and get an idea of what's working, what's not working. It's an opportunity to identify issues with CPOE before we roll it out for a complete change. Task alignment management will be responsible for identifying key performance indicators, which will be required for exceptional performance. So thank you for watching. Are there any questions?